we've been talking a lot about metaphors and pictures and images, and how can the viewers or listeners of our conversation here today, how can they apply this into their everyday life with Christ?
Okay. Yeah, let's go back to the illustration when Jesus says, I will make you fishers of men, right? Yeah, just simply put, if I were talking with someone about this very verse, I think you would just need to work through some steps. When I hear that verse, I will make you fishers of men, they talk about fishing. I love fishing. To me, growing up in Tennessee, fishing is a recreation. It's a leisure activity. We do it for fun, right? But it's important to remember as we move through this kind of, these interpretive steps to say, once we get back to that original audience, how would they have understood it? So, these men who are on the shore of the Sea of Galilee with the boats, the nets, how did they think, boy, fishing, this is so much fun. Whenever we get a day off, we go and risk our lives on this wild sea that is tormented by, weather that's difficult to predict, that is rife with spiritual forces that we don't understand. Is this something that we just want to do for fun, or is this something that we do to live? And I think that it really kind of flips our understanding of what it means to be a fisher of men. So if Jesus said to me, hey, I'm going to make you a fisher of men, I would think, well, that's great. We do that on the weekends, When the weather is nice, we go fishing. It's something that you can always opt out of. It's something you kind of do for a hobby, right? But if you told somebody, let's say, from your own culture, if you told let's say a young Danish man who is from a fishing family, who understood the perils of sea, the risk to life and family and relationship, the risk of economical or economic collapse, understood the risks that go into heading out on that water that's impossible to predict and dropping nets and hoping that that you got it right. I think that if Jesus says, I will make you fishers of men, to that man, to that Danish man who's familiar with the risks of the fisherman's trade, I think that he makes a far better Christian. I think that when he says, okay, I will do that, when he puts down his nets and when he follows, he understands what he's going through. But somebody from my background, they put their stuff down, and then Jesus starts requiring far more of them. And they thought, wait, Jesus, I signed up to be fishers of men. It's a weekend activity. We do it when the weather's nice. It's fun. If we want to keep the fish, we keep them. If we don't want to keep the fish, we throw them back, But for somebody who would have a similar understanding to the disciples that day, then they would be able to say, I know the risk involved. And when things did not go well following Jesus, they would say, I was prepared for this. And I would say, how are you prepared? And then that one would say, Jesus told me that I would be fishers of men. And I know the risk that it takes to be a fisherman. I know the cost that it takes to be a fisherman. I know what we have to go through to be fishermen. No fisherman whose family had been in it very long would not understand or would not know very intimately the labor and toil and risk and possible death of anybody on the Sea of Galilee would have known people who went out and did not make it. That's what Jesus was calling them to. To follow him and to accept the risks in a similar way that the fishermen took every single day. And so to work through those steps to say, okay, what's Matthew trying to communicate here? What is Jesus really saying? And how is it being understood? And how is it being understood? Based off of what the audience knew of the speaker and what the speaker knew of the audience, and to live in that interaction and to work through the steps, to take those perspectives as simply as we can. What that does is it protects us from imposing our own context and thinking that following Christ is a leisure activity, that following Christ is a weekend activity, that following Christ is something we do when the weather's right. But to say, what was it like for those men on that day? And I'm so amazed that they put down their nets and they followed Christ. It's so humbling to see that. But to think that for you and I, when we were called to Christ, we did the very same thing. And that's exactly what we signed up for, whether we knew it or not. We may have thought we were signing up for something that was way easier, but it's no less demanding. And the risks are no, what would you say, are no less for us than it would have been for many that day. We have risked our eternal existence on Jesus being who he claimed to be. That's a big deal.
And that makes it worth it.
It makes it worth it. Yeah, exactly. That's why we take the risk.
Jesus is worth the risk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way to end.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching this clip. If you enjoyed it, you can find another one by clicking just over here. Or if you want to watch the full episode and dive a step deeper, you can find a link in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.